KindaSound radio. We're tuning in the change.
Welcome to the KindaSound Astrology update for the 26th of January until the 1st of Feb. With me, Stella Grace. Each week we are looking at the current big planetary influences and how we can best utilize the energies to thrive. We look at the update each week for a little more detail of each of the key components astrologically, and then a topic to touch on in a little more depth. And today we are looking at Uranus. We're also kicking off with Uranus today in terms of the update as well. So big news for today, the 26th of January, we have Uranus stationing direct today. Now, this is big news, not only because of what that brings for Uranus stationing direct and those energies that we're going to talk about in a sec, but also that means that we have no major planets now retrograding, and that's actually quite a rare occurrence. So what we have, in other words, when planets are no longer retrograding and no major planets are doing so at the moment, we have no strong influences of introspection, delay, caution. We have a really dynamic and creative time moving forwards with our plans, projects and all of our interactions. So there's this really forward moving momentum, forward facing energy. And it's a really good time to be getting your teeth into things and to be enjoying a more dynamic and more vibrant pace moving forwards. With Uranus direct specifically, we've got the forwards movement and the forwards momentum in the areas of innovation, change, and freedom. Those are all really Uranian themes. And we also have, and this is a collective energy. So with Uranus, it's one of the slower moving planets. And so we have more of a longer term feel with a broader energy in terms of the feel, and all the astrology updates that we're looking at for the week is all a collective feel. So with Uranus moving direct, collectively we can expect an air of perhaps rebellion, perhaps more freedom, thinking from conformity, and these features are also linked to Aquarian energy, which we have quite a lot of that as well. So we're going to touch on that again in a minute. As we discussed in a last week's previous episode with the Pluto in Uranus, so in Aquarius, sorry, and that has Uranian energy as well. So we've got this really Uranian time. With Uranus currently in Taurus, the earth sign, it's a really good time to think about our definitions of safety, stability, structures, and finances. Those are all really Taurian themes. And so Uranus is like a liberator. And so we may have this real liberated sense in those areas. So we may realize over this period so Uranus is in Taurus now until 2026. Now stationing direct. It's been in Taurus for a little while already, but for 6 years altogether. 6 years left in Taurus it's been 6 years in Taurus, and now until 2026 it's there. So we have now this direct forwards moving energy in those areas, and we may really utilize this time to think about a new relationship with those areas, new relationships with money, new relationships with how we value and feel what our safety and stability means and looks like. We may have less emphasis on the traditional conformist areas linked to those things. For example, we might feel more freedom, less desire to exert our energy on the perhaps more traditional view of how we build our structures, make our money and bring our security. We may have revolutionary ideas on looking at different ways we want to make our money and build our security. We may think of other things that bring us more feelings of security and stability. And you may even be considering looking at more creative ways to not only view our stability and our security, but how we, maybe access those things both on a physical and on an emotional level, because Uranus energy really invites us to be free and to non-conform, and this real liberator sense is definitely touching on those areas for the next few years. And now with this forward moving energy, this isn't a time for hustling at the daily grind. This isn't about Uranus in Taurus doesn't invite us to hustle at 9 to 5s we're not happy in. It really invites us a more fresh thinking, creative energy. It could be thinking about things like how we want to access means of connection and means of stability through technology. We might want to build a second income stream, for example, in that area, because technology is another theme in our kind of evolutionary period at this time, and linked to another Uranian theme. So that's an interesting energy. We also today and tomorrow have the residue of the full moon. So we have this really beautiful time to release anything that's blocking our ability to take up the center stage of our life, because we're in this Leo moon energy, which is fiery, dynamic, creative, and bold. It's not a time at all for playing small. It's a time for basking in our own sovereignty and shining that light naturally back out to the world. And we've got this energy, this residue of the full moon that was yesterday. And we have 2 days before and after where we can still really kind of utilize the full moon illumination on those kind of areas. And I always find personally that the stronger energy is actually following the exact moment it was full. So see what resonates for you. I know people work differently, but for me, I always find after the peak of the full moon, I definitely have a period where I feel better, in kind of inflow with, best utilizing the energies in the 2 days following the full moon. So it's a really great time for being very reflective about shining our light. We're bouncing that light back out to the world. We're combining it with all the Aquarian energy that's at play, because the sun and the moon are in opposition to the sun and the moon are in an opposition, and that's what makes us able to see the beautiful illumination of the moon as a reflection. So there's a relationship of sorts between that sun and moon. And we also have the sun and Pluto together opposite the moon. So it's still all a lot of activated energy by Aquarius themes, which is also linked to Uranian energy as well. So that I did last week's episode did cover Pluto in Aquarius, and that's available from KindaSound.org/podcast, as that energy is around for the next 2 decades, and certainly is very activated at the moment. So what we have is both a short and a long-term energy at play for shining our unique and individual light. And it's really a time to shine that light unapologetically, really unashamedly and uniquely sharing and shining the authentic light that you've come here to be. Now, the Leo full moon, really invites us to do that on a personal, say, more individualistic sense. But the individualistic sense is shared by Aquarius as well, although that then also factors in the collective and the humanitarian energies too. So this really makes perfect sense, because when we think about it, when we fill our own cup and we shine our own light and we, really naturally give ourselves the self-love and self-care that we all require, our own cup then naturally overflows and enables us to really easily be of more service and better use to others. So it's actually not selfish, or it's not arrogant to, really love on ourselves. I posted about this yesterday on my social media, because over many years of working with people who are on a growth path, who are working on spiritual development or just personal development even, many people have shared with me at different times a similar variation of the same question. And that's something like, who am I to do, X, Y, or Z, whatever their dream, desire is, ambition, or isn't it selfish or arrogant to, really love and care and value myself and give myself a lot of self-care time, and for both of those things, my answer, and this has been something that I've had to really work on myself, and really, even still, self-care and self-love is a daily practice. So it's been really interesting to me to look at that my response to that question over the years, and it's always, who are we not to shine? Actually our unique and authentic light that we have each come here to be. No one else can do it like you. There's that real, reflection here about our own individual essence, our own unique light, and each of us have this beautiful, unique light that we've come here to share. And so the Leo full moon that's still in this residue today really invites us to do that, as does the Aquarian energy that's really strong at the moment. We've actually been very conditioned to put ourselves at the bottom of the pile. And this energy kind of reminds us of, we've moved out of that place now. That was very much, I think, there's a lot of factors at play, but we were in the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces, when there was perhaps more of a sense of, you heal others, you give to others, and those things are all beautiful and still absolutely, part of our humanitarian considerations and part of looking after each other for sure. But what we don't do within that is give until the point that we have nothing left. And I think often in busy cultures, we're very conditioned to put ourselves at the bottom of the pile. And, it's really a reminder here to revisit, reclaim the value of self-care and self-love, and shining our unique light without any self-limiting, and really releasing anything that's holding us back to that. Because full moons generally are a great time to look at what's no longer serving you, look at anything that is not necessary. So that's happening until that energy is really around until the end of the 27th. But moving on, we are obviously in the age of Aquarius for a number of years and have been. And so, we've got this more emphasis generally on this. I heard another astrologer that I follow on Instagram, I think she put it as sacred rebellion in terms of the Aquarian energy. I think it's Oath Oracle on Instagram. And I really loved that. I didn't actually I didn't have a chance to see and listen the whole transmission that she gave, but I love that reference about sacred rebellion. And that so speaks to me about Uranian energy that we're experiencing and the Aquarius energy that we're experiencing. It's sacred rebellion because it's freedom from the conformity that we've been conditioned by for so long. Things are changing, and we spoke a lot about this in last week's episode around the Pluto and Aquarius shifts that have been underplaying for some time, and will certainly be making things look very transformationally different in the next 20 years. And so it's a really, really exciting time to be alive and look at how we're, conforming and what we might want to think about differently in terms of our own sovereignty and our own freedoms. Really, it's a great time to express yourself using your voice, sharing matters of the heart, because that's that Leo energy as well, from the full moon yesterday around, real key heart energy. And so on that note, we're actually going to have our first song. We've got a little bit of Desiree, You Gotta Be, and that is really inviting us to be bold, to speak out. And thank you, Django, for playing that one for us now.
KindaSound Radio, the station for a global community.
Welcome back to KindaSound Energy Update with me, Stella Grace. And every week we're discussing the astrology and how best to utilize the energies. You can catch up on all of the episodes on kindasound.org/podcast or Apple, Spotify, or Audible. And we're going to get straight back into the rest of the week now with the big planetary influences. And with that, on the 27th, we have Mars and Mercury in conjunction in Capricorn. So what that means is that they are making a tight relationship together, and therefore they have quite an interesting synergy. The two planets influence each other quite heavily when they make a close conjunction. So for these few days, because these are quite short-term moving planets, not like the big Uranian energy and the big Pluto energy that we've been discussing before that lasts for decades or many years. But here we just got a short-term aspect. And for these few days, both our mental and physical energy is connected in a practical sense. Because it's Capricorn, because it's an earth sign, it's got, a great, steadfast, ambitious desire to achieve and to make plans and goals and to, do the necessary practical action steps to get those things achieved. So we have that theme running through our mental and physical energy for those few days. And so it's a great time to utilize putting our thoughts into action. And again, on the back of riding that full moon, it's another dose of more forthright and courageous energy, with the Leo bold fire energy. We also have a sense of goal and ambition with Capricorn and with Mars and Mercury there. So it's a really quite ignited time to really get those ambitious thoughts, ideas into some kind of reality, because there are those themes and those energies available for us to access. On the 28th, we have Venus trining Jupiter, and that's a lovely beneficial aspect of flow and good fortune, because wherever Venus touches, she brings really a sense and an essence of romanticism, beauty, it's ease, it's flow, it's harmonious. And then it's in a positive aspect. The trine is about flow, and it's normally with ease, and it brings a harmonious feel in itself. So Venus making that positive and connected relationship to the planet Jupiter, which is really beneficial and is the planet associated with a touch of luck. So collectively, in areas of love and romance, which are Venus themes, we really have an air of harmony, and we have an expansion on our relationships. And this is with the trine, as I say, this is usually going to be in a positive sense. Sometimes Jupiter can expand things and make them bigger, which, depending on what the issue is, may be challenging or may be harmonious. And in this instance, it really should be harmonious and with a nice ease and flow to it, because it's the trine. So it really should be a nice time of beneficial attributes within relationships. And of course, that's relationships. The first one, the most important one, being with ourselves, and noticing that in our relationships with others, as well as as a reflection, really. It's likely to be a time where those few days bring an uplifted, optimistic sense and general feel-good vibes, really, in our relationships with ourselves and with others. So we are going to now have our second song, which is looking back at the also the not only the bold themes, but also the really stepping into our light, themes of stepping into our light, things of shining our light unapologetically. And we're going to link that into our next song choice, The Hall of Fame. Thank you, Django.
KindaSound, tuning in for change.
Welcome back to the KindaSound Astrology Update with me, Stella Grace. And we have covered the astrologically, the big planetary influences for this week. And now we're going to come on to our theme in a little more depth. We're looking at the topic of Uranus today, and it's a really fitting time because with Uranus stationing direct on the 26th of January, we've got this real forwards moving sense now for the next few years in the earth sign of Taurus as well, and now moving forwards. So we're seeing those areas of freedom from conformity, particularly now really setting in motion again as a collective. Uranus it's known as the father of electricity. Is one of its kind of references in astrology terms, and it's because it's innovative. It's also believed to have this big magnetic field around it. It's generated by convection currents, and without going too much into the astronomy, it's associated with electricity, and certainly a more random way of orbiting than the other planets do. And therefore, it's the planet of sudden and unexpected changes. It's about breaking rules. It's about freedom and originality. It's about revolutionary events that change established structures. Often Uranus can come through quite like a breakthrough. It can often be quite abrupt. It can be out of the blue. And I think it's one of those old adages that really link to the nature and the essence of something. So out of the blue is quite fitting for Uranus in a number of ways, because it's also the coldest planet. So it's linked to that blue, the color blue, and being the coldest planet. So, and that is also one of the essences of its nature. Uranian themes can be sort of cold in the sense that there is more of a detached feel. It's less emotional energy and more mental thinking energy, and getting on with change and bringing change about. So, it certainly is about extremes and discoveries and breakthroughs. It's the inventor and the creative scientist of the cosmos. Uranus rules the sign of Aquarius, so we notice some similar themes through the planet's energies and through the zodiac signs energies of Aquarius, and we have those links there of the freedom seeking, truth bringing, change bringing events. Often with Uranus events or Uranian energy that then touches the collective, in a certain way, by either, like today we have it stationing direct, so that will bring around those kind of energies. Or if, Uranus is making an aspect to something that we notice, we can often feel that changes can be, disruptive or perhaps a little chaotic. But always in hindsight, it's often, where the Uranian energy has come through, it's brought about change that has been needed. It's been, for the higher good down the line. It might not be easy because change often isn't. But with Uranus energy coming in and liberating the circumstances, it might not feel like that in the first instance, but often when we look back at Uranian events, they've been needed and it's been a breakthrough. And so, when we see Uranian energy in action, it can sometimes feel inconvenient or shocking. But with time and hindsight, we see that Uranian energy is really good for long-term change. Uranian energy is the change maker and the revolution bringer. And so, over time, we look back and we can see that we've really needed that at points. And I think we're at another one of those points for sure. Things are changing in a big way with structures. Uranus in Taurus is all about that. And we're seeing our system, evolve and adapt differently. And I think that's a really positive thing, and certainly something that, very wise people and prophecies and astrology and lots of things and lots of people have been talking about for some time. So on that note, I'm going to finish with our last song, which is Bob Marley's Redemption song, and perhaps one of the ultimate for freedom and change, that's very Uranian and also nice Friday soul soothing vibes. So enjoy this and Bob Marley's message, and of course that change starting with ourselves. And I look forward to seeing you next Friday at 10. Much love.